Sunflower Naturals presents phthalates, the next dioxin. Current standards for phthalate exposure were set in 1953, when cigarettes were good for you, arsenic was safe, asbestos was the perfect insulation solution, a little bit of mercury wasn't a big deal, and don't worry about the exposure to Agent Orange. It only kills plants, not people. Seriously. Archaic is putting the current upper limit of exposure mildly. This was based on science in 1953. Chesterfield is best for you. Chesterfield is the only cigarette I can speak for because it's the only one I smoke. I've smoked Chesterfield for 22 years and I recommend you try them. They satisfy. And how? Ed Sullivan. And the first to present this scientific evidence on effects of smoking, a medical specialist, is making regular monthly examinations of a group of people from various walks of life. 45% of this group has smoked Chesterfield for an average of over 10 years. After 8 months, the medical specialist reports that he observed no adverse effects on the nose, throat, and sinuses of the group from smoking Chesterfield. Chesterfield, first and only premium quality cigarette available in both regular and king size. Phthalates do occur naturally in a few foods, such as banana peels, olive oil, and grapes. However, the phthalates for cleaning products, body care products, and plastics are produced by extracting molecules from petroleum, and these molecules are synthesized by the chemical industry. Our exposure from foods with naturally occurring phthalates would be extremely minimal. However, our exposure from body care and cleaning products and emissions from plastics, as well as our food and water supply, has increased our exposure to extremes. For example, our bodies require a tiny bit of arsenic for optimal functioning. Too much arsenic and we suffer health consequences, and much more than that, and we die. Literally hundreds of studies show risk associated with phthalate exposure. Phthalates are endocrine disruptors. The endocrine system controls the function of every cell in the body. Exposure starts in the womb. Maternal exposure has been shown to increase the risk of the child being born with reproductive disorders, predisposed genetically for breast and testicular cancer, asthma, and allergies, and a whole host of other medical conditions. Postnatal exposure increases the risk of asthma, allergies, learning disabilities, and heart disease. Obesity. I could go on and on and on and quote studies all day. There are literally hundreds that show a connection between endocrine disruptors such as phthalates, bisphenol A, and parabens, and the extreme increase in the medical conditions we are experiencing today. The studies are hosted on the National Library of Medicine website, as well as other reputable sites. Links to all the sources are available on the Sunflower Naturals website. Just drop by and start clicking. Our current phthalate exposure limit was set in 1953, with the determining factor being the point at which there are no additional deaths. No consideration was taken for the health consequences at much lower exposures. Back in 1953, there were only 106 tons of phthalates produced. By 1984, phthalate production had increased to over 1 million tons a year, and by 2000, just 6 years later, production has more than quadrupled to over 5.5 million tons of phthalates produced per year. Over the last 40 to 50 years, phthalates have been shown in numerous studies to be associated with increased risk of cancers, preterm birth, reduced fertility, learning disabilities, heart disease, obesity. Other countries have reduced exposure limits and banned the inclusion of phthalates in many consumer goods. Considering the bans and restrictions in other countries, guess who gets the majority of the exposure from the increase in production? We do. In 2008, Bill 1040, Section 108, makes it unlawful to manufacture, sell, distribute, or import a children's toy or child care article containing specific concentrations of specified phthalates. This is a drop in the bucket as compared to all the products children are exposed to, especially considering much of the harm to health occurs from maternal exposure while the child is still in the womb. We used to dump our sewage in rivers and streams. Problems started arising when the fish started having birth defects of the reproductive system, miscarriages. The fish were becoming unable to reproduce. The EPA banned dumping waste into rivers and streams due to the harm to the environment and the animals. We started dumping the sewage off the coasts. There are still sections of the ocean where we were dumping this toxic soup that cannot support life. Dead zones where nothing can grow and animals can't live, even with billions of gallons of salt water washing over the area. This practice was banned by international treaties in 1991 due to the health effects of the toxins on the environment. So what do we do with the waste now? We pour it on our agricultural fields. Our food supply is becoming contaminated more and more every year. Studies are showing that as the concentration moves deeper into the soil, the plants take it up at a higher rate. We eat this in our grains, our fruits, our vegetables, and feed this to our animals. Animals store the toxins in their fat cells. Our eggs, milks, cheese, meats, they're all contaminated, and the rate of contamination increases every single year. We can't eat fats because of the toxins that are stored in animal fat cells, not because of fat in and of itself causes cancer. The chemicals stored in the fat cells cause the cancer. If fat caused cancer, we'd have been dropping like flies 50 years ago while we were spreading lard on our bread with our dinners with total fat. But cancer rates back then were only a quarter of what they are now. And 50 years ago, in the 1960s, yes, we knew all about cancer. There just wasn't as much of it. In 1992, a study was done to determine the quantity of phthalates in food. It was estimated that we are ingesting as much as 2 milligrams of phthalates every day. That was back in 1992, before we were pouring this on our crops. That was when we were told to stop eating fat, eggs, butter, cheeses, reduce fattening food by avoiding fats. Why weren't we told the truth, that the fat is full of toxins? Our exposure from food is far higher now. In addition, our exposure from plastics is far higher. Our exposure from cleaning products is far higher. Our exposure from body care products is far higher. So how can you reduce exposure to phthalates when the chemicals are in almost everything you own? You can sit around and wait for legislation to ban the products. You can sit around and wait for companies to grow a conscience and stop using the harmful chemicals in your consumer products. Or you can be part of the change and make the changes needed to reduce exposure and risk for you and your family. First, please stop buying the plastics as much as possible. The emissions from the plastics, even the plastic industry, is concerned. Most important, do not store your food in plastics. Switch today to glass or metal for food storage. According to concerns in the plastic industry, phthalates and other harmful chemicals leach out of plastics and into your food. Never microwave in the plastic. The heat increases the rate of the chemicals leaching into the food. I wrote Non-Toxic Body Care and Non-Toxic Cleaning Guide to help consumers make the change from conventional to natural body care and cleaning solutions quickly, easily, and inexpensively. You'll reduce toxins in your home and reduce toxins from entering the environment that come back in our food and our water. Green or natural products are unrealistically expensive, and most of the time you don't know what's in the products anyway. The recipes in both books were developed using studies that show the ingredients are effective. No, not studies from the 1950s, studies from over 2000. The ingredients for the recipes are safe, non-toxic, and you'll know without a doubt that they contain no phthalates or other risky chemicals. The books are extremely popular and have sold in 10 countries. Millions are switching to natural solutions for cleaning and body care to reduce the risks of the diseases associated with the chemicals in consumer goods. People are changing for the same reason they wear a helmet or a seatbelt, or put their child in a car seat, or gave up smoking, to reduce the risk to their health and the risk to the health of their children. The guides can be downloaded directly from the website or purchased through the website in book form directly from the distributor. Thank you for watching. All of the resources used in this presentation are available on the Sunflower Naturals website at www.sunflowernaturals.com. $2 from every downloaded version is donated to organizations that lobby Congress to remove chemicals with known health hazards from consumer goods. Thank you in advance for helping.